now. Welcome everyone to the Strategy Factory online class. So this is a prelude to the Strategy Factory class itself. For those of us who are not familiar with the Strategy Factory, it's a 10-hour event that we run, usually a live event that we run, where we take businesses from we break down strategy, and then we get businesses to actually, make progress, get themselves properly structured, get the right staff, get the right clients, connect with high net worth individuals. It's usually a very intense 10 hours. It's usually a day. It's intense 10 hours. So I'm going to try and do the beginning part, just the introductory module 1, and then we'll talk about how you can get into the class, right? Okay, so it's already recording. Everybody is also going to get the recorded version of this class. The recorded version of this class. I'm going to be having a few people assist me today. There's Michael Akintayo. So any message you get from Michael Akintayo and Vivian Ehidiamen is also from me, because it's from our team, right? So you'll be able to review all those messages, right? Okay, so just I'm going to be running through my slides, and at some point I would, do a quick stop and then ask if you have any questions. And if you have any questions, then we can take them, and then I will continue. It's essentially one module, but it's broken into like four different parts. So when I get to that junction, I'll stop. I'll take some questions for like 5-10 minutes, and then we'll move on, and then do another part of the class, and then take another set of questions. But at the end of the night, we're going to take questions for another 30 minutes. I'm going to try and answer as many questions as time would allow us. And I hope that this will be equally an exciting opportunity for you. I'm trying to turn my device here so that it doesn't affect. Oh, okay. Yeah. So just a bit about us, just housekeeping stuff. LIM Simple is an acronym for Life, Investing, Money, and Business Made Simple. We run the LIM Simple Business Academy, where we provide trainings and consulting services to corporate organizations. And we also do coaching services. We work with, businesses one-on-one, and then we've also worked with these organizations. But more important to this conversation, in the last decade plus, I've had the privilege of working with over 2,000 entrepreneurs across different industries, from real estate to entertainment to agri to network marketing to, quite a number of industries. And we currently do have about 17 of our clients that do over $1 billion a year. And usually we always have a billionaire session in the Strategy Factory itself. So we'd most likely have that in the main Strategy Factory when that time comes. So let's start. The first thing that I want to mention to you is this. Nobody predicted a year like this, But the most important thing is to not forget what you wanted at the beginning of the year, right? Because at times like this, it's easy for us to forget. It's easy for us to think about, the whole year. And there's a lot of talk happening globally now about, the best thing, the only thing, if you come out of this year alive, it's a fantastic thing, right? You don't have to be bothered about achieving your goals and the likes. And to that, I personally disagree, because people who say things like that either don't understand what is really going on, or they understand and they are, trying to not help you understand. In the history of the world, there's usually more money that moves in a crisis. So if you take a look at the world now, there is tons of money that is moving around now. So, but the first thing is to make sure that you don't forget what you wanted at the beginning of the year, right? So it was Jim Rohn that said this. He said, the same wind blows on us all. So your success is not determined by the blowing of the wind, but by the setting of your sail, right? So if you take a look at, a ship traveling in the ocean, it's the same wind that takes one to its destination. That same wind destroys the other one, right? So today the excuse is COVID. Before, now it was we live in the wrong economy, we live in a third world country, or people are not supportive, or nobody's going to support me, or whatever it is, right? If you ever give yourself an excuse before, you continue to give yourself an excuse now. So very quickly, I just want in 2 minutes to run through, and the reason why I always like to use these slides, most people who've ever been to my training know I use this slide a lot. And the reason why I do it is that even for me, it reminds me of the things that I want, right? Some people want financial freedom, want to make a lot of money and not be bothered. Financial freedom is such a good thing. Just think about it this way. Imagine if you had enough money to do whatever it is that you wanted to do at this time, right? This was the best time to have actually had financial freedom, because a lot of people didn't have money coming in. Imagine if you could keep the same lifestyle, if you could enjoy the same lifestyle without money coming in. It's an amazing thing, right? Exactly. Some people want to be able to contribute to society. The world has gone through really tough times in this period. And imagine if you could do, I'm blessed personally. I'm grateful for everything that's happened in this period. I'm grateful because particularly in this COVID period, I was able to do a lot of giving to people. I remember I was talking to the guy just outside my estate, the guy who supplies us gas, right? So he talked to me and he was like, so he stopped me when I was driving out and said that, am I ready? Do I want to buy more gas? Can I just buy it? Or I said, no, I don't need gas now, but I understood what he meant. So every time since then, I think I had to buy about once or twice after that. And anytime I had to buy, what I would do is that I would overpay him, because I understand that it's a very tough time. Some people want to make a lot of money because they want peace of mind. Can you imagine how scared most people are that they couldn't make a lot of money? Some people want good quality health. Some people want to build assets. Some people want good quality education. Very funny, right? That it's funny that, even the type of education you are getting has become reflective in this economy. There are some schools that are closed, and there are some schools that are writing exams right now. In this thing, I was watching the Minister of Health saying that, some schools, because they run a global curriculum, they are allowed to get back to school to do their third term, and they're currently writing exams. Some schools, they are not doing third term now, they're doing continuous learning. Right? Good quality education. People want to retire and start. They want to be able to have the type of retirements that they want. And since most of us here are entrepreneurs, I don't have to go into all the details, but the key is this. If you really want more, then you must be ready, to change your attitude towards what's happening. So the first thing that I need you to say to yourself, and I want you to type it in the comments. I want you to type exactly what you're seeing on the screen right now. COVID-19 happened for me, not to me, right? And I'm serious. It's very, very important for you to type it. Or let me even give an opportunity for everybody to say it. So I'm going to give us an opportunity. I want you to say it out loud. COVID-19 happened for me and not to me.
COVID-19 happened for me and not to me.
Don't worry, if you don't understand what you're saying, just say it first.
COVID-19 happened for me and not to me.
COVID-19 happened
beautiful.
to me.
Exactly. COVID-19 happened for you and not to you.
Me.
Fantastic. Now, it's very important to say this. Very important. It's very important to say this because our life is always a function of perspective, right? So today, one of my coaching clients, I remember we had a meeting just at the time when, when the COVID-19 was about starting. And I said, look, you have to believe that COVID-19 is happening for you and not to you. Why? Because saying that it's happening to you means that you're the victim of it, right? And then you're looking at all the terrible things that's happening. However, if you say that it's happening for you, then there's a reason why it happened. Then it keeps your mind open, because we're going to be talking about a lot of ideas in this place, and you're not going to get it if you don't believe that it happened for you and not to you, right? So I was talking to her today, and this is about three or 4 months into COVID-19, and her business is doing well. So I was like, you're the reason why COVID-19 happened. She's like, no, it's a bad thing. I mean, people are dying. I say, yeah, people are dying, but you're not dead. And the thing is this, if you think like, oh, people are dying, all these things are happening, you're going to put yourself in a state of mind where you cannot get the best quality ideas. And what you need is to have the state of mind where you can get the best quality ideas. So one of the things that I was able to use to help her understand how this thing worked was this. Now, if you believe in God, right, like I assume that most of us here do, if you believe in God and you believe in the concept of God being very powerful and understanding everything and knowing everything that will happen before it happens, if that is what you believe, then you must believe that God is aware that sometime in 2020, COVID-19 was going to hit, right? You have to know that, right? And you also have to know that God is equally aware that COVID-19 is going to hit. However, he's also aware that you're going to be alive in 2020, and you're going to have some responsibilities like school fees, house rent, all of those things, right? And he's going to be aware that you're going to need to be able to make things work at that time. Now, if he is aware that it was going to happen, and he is aware that you're going to have responsibilities, things to do, then if he's also a good God, then he definitely had a plan for you to make a lot of money in this period. You have to believe that, right? If you don't believe that, wrong, right? And once you understand that, it'll change the way you see the pandemic, right? It'll change the way you see the pandemic, seriously. In fact, the funny thing, I've always been, so I've been a student of economics and history for a while. And so I have always believed that money moves significantly in the chaos. So I remember where I was I was in Warri. I was doing like a 2-part session. I'd done the first one, and the second one was going to be on Wednesday. I was in Warri and I was going to be back, and we were supposed to have Strategy Factory on Friday. And I remember I was in Warri when the Lagos State social distancing rule came on. And it was clear that we're not going to hold our event. So I sat down there and I said, first I felt really bad because that event was going to be if we're able to put, usually we put 30 people to 50 people in the room at 70,000 naira. That could be anywhere from 2.1 to 3.5 million naira, for us. So, we're gathering momentum, things were going to work out. So I sat down there. So first I was like, oh, this is what's going to happen. Most people are not going to be able to pay. People are not going to join the classes and the likes. But I quickly stopped myself and I asked, money moves in chaos. So where is the money in this chaos, right? And so I'm going to be showing you a couple of things that I did and then also running you through some of the things in Strategy Factory. So let's get into Module 1. Module 1 is, in my opinion, in the Strategy Factory, one of the most important modules as far as the class is concerned. So when we get into class, the first thing that we always like to do is define what a business is. Now, I know that everybody sort of knows what a business is instinctively. However, when you get to strategy, or if you've ever had to work with me, you would understand how I operate is that I would always like to find the simplest definition of something and then explain it. Because once you understand the definition of something, it's easy for you to be able to build a business, or it's easy for you to be able to practicalize it. When a concept is simple enough, you can practice it, right? Okay, so there are tons of definitions of a business, and every one of them right. Every definition. Okay, you know what I'll do? Let me just ask. Anybody wants to give a definition of what you think a business is? Just raise up your hand, and I will unmute you so that we can hear you out. And by the way, any definition that you give is correct. Why? Because it is true for you. Very important. It is true for you. And there is nothing as powerful as something that is true for you. So you can just raise up your hand, and then I will be able to. Oh, someone asked, where is the money in the chaos? I'll show you. All right. So anybody wants to define? Or you want to write it down? Or do I just run? If anybody raises up their hands now, I would be able to. Or let me just run, right? So that we can save some time. Okay. So the simplest definition that I have found is from a book called Personal MBA. Now, the Personal MBA is by a guy called Josh Kaufman. It is an amazing. If you haven't read that book, please look for it. If you haven't read that book and you're probably a career person thinking about doing an MBA, maybe you shouldn't read the book. Because if you read that book, you might not be as interested in an MBA as you were. Because it essentially gives you every single thing that you would have probably gone to look for in an MBA, right? But he gave a definition that I find to be very, very, very instructive, right? So he says that a business is a first repeatable process. And this is the key. It has to be a repeatable process. Now, what is a repeatable process? A repeatable process is a systemized process. Something that can be repeated, something that, you know, if you can do it once and not do it again, it's not a business, right? It's luck. It's something that it's a happenstance. But a business has to be repeated. So if you're not around, it has to be able to happen, right? So it's a repeatable process that, number one, creates and delivers something of value, right? Number two, that other people want or need. Number three, at a price they are willing to pay. Number four, in a way that satisfies the customer's needs and expectations. And number five, so that the business brings in enough profits to make it worthwhile for the owners to continue operation. So in this class, what we're going to do is that we're going to take each and every one of these factors and explain every single thing, right? It is one of the best definitions of a business that I have found. One of the best definitions of a business that I have found personally. All right? So let's take a look at every single one of this, right? So the first one is creates and delivers something of value. So how valuable will your offering be post-COVID-19 or during COVID-19, as you would like to say, right? So this speaks about the viability of your idea. How viable is your idea? How feasible can it be turned into a business? Because you know what? The human being, we experience, according to brain scientists, the human being experiences over 21,000 different ideas on a daily basis. 21,000 different ideas on a daily basis. In fact, sometimes we have ideas that we don't even know because we're not paying attention, right? Very, very important. Their ideas are a dime a dozen. However, for that idea to become an actual business, then we have to start to think about them, right? We have to think about it. We have to think about it with regards to how, what's going to happen in the future, how we're going to build, what's coming, right? Okay, so I have 4 yardsticks. Every time I think about a business idea, I have 4 different yardsticks that I consider before deciding that that business would become a business idea. However, what I have added to this class, for those of us who are who have attended the Strategy Factory before, I'm seeing some people here that have attended the Strategy Factory before, and thanks for joining in again. However, I've added the 4 yardsticks that is usually in the Strategy Factory, but I've also added 3 additional measures that I have found to help me navigate profitability during this COVID-19, and I think that it will be useful for you too, right? So we'll first talk about the 4 things, and then we'll talk about the 3 additional things, right? So the first thing, the thing that you have to consider before we get into the 4 things is, when you're thinking about the viability of an idea, you need to think about your local market, right? Population demography, and the peculiarities are usually a strong indicator of exactly what's coming, what will come, and what's already phasing out of the business world, right? So the first thing that you have to always ask yourself, the idea that you have or your business, some of us at the end of this class, or at least at the end of the Strategy Factory class itself, some of us might have to shut down some arms of our businesses and start off new one. We're in a business that is closing up. So the first question you need to ask is, does it serve a huge expanding market? Huge expanding market. So in every single business world, there's always every business idea always grows, reaches its climax, and then starts to fall, right? Every business idea has its life cycle. Every business has its life cycle. And by the time it hits the peak, it has 2 options. It can either come down or reinvent itself so that it keeps going up, right? Now, and what determines that is the huge expanding market, right? What is the huge expanding market? What is the market seeing? So I'll give you an instance. So if somebody comes to you and says they want to do recharge card business, for example, the reality of recharge card business is that the market, even though the amount of people that are getting into that now have phones and all of that are more, I mean, as at 2007, 2008, we were spending as a country about 2.3 billion naira every day on airtime. And as at 2016, it was up to about, I think it was like 35 or some ridiculous 60 billion naira on a daily basis. So it's a lot of money. However, the way people get their airtime is changing. So you start to see that there's less people on the road that sell recharge cards, right? So recharge card as a business is no longer a huge expanding market. It's actually a shrinking market, right? Because a good chunk of that business has gone to the banks. In fact, GT Bank as a bank was said to have done over 400 billion in airtime last year. 400 freaking billion in airtime last year, right? So just think back at when there used to be somebody selling recharge card in every nook and cranny, and now they're no longer there, right? If you're thinking about opening a cyber cafe, it's no longer a huge expanding market, it's a shrinking market, right? If just think about many of the industries that we have today. And for example, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, the COVID-19, in my opinion, the COVID-19 has shifted the Nigerian internet space and probably giving us 10 to 15 years advancement. So a lot of the things that we didn't think that we'll be doing, we have had to figure out how to do them now. And when we get back into the world as it was, would most likely adopt some of those things, right? So you have to think the business that I'm going to start or the business that I'm in, is the market for that business expanding or is it shrinking? Right? So I'll give you an instance. If you're in advertising and you run an advertising agency, is the advertising market, the advertising agency space, is it expanding or is it shrinking? It is shrinking. Every single advertising agencies are beginning to lose tons of money to digital marketing agencies. Right? That's it. Even if you look at it, for example, if you look at it, telecoms as a business, you know, many of us look at telecoms companies, and how many of us here know that one of the goals of MTN as a telecoms company, one of the goals of MTN as a telecoms company over the next 10 years is to become the biggest bank in Africa. And you're asking, what the hell does telecom have to do with banking? Yes, because they realize that even the telecoms business is no longer a huge expanding market. It's shrinking. So if you take a look at what's happening abroad with T-Mobile and all those guys, people no longer buy, in quotes, airtime, right? They pay a certain amount every month. They get unlimited calls, unlimited text, unlimited. And just think about it right now, right? Most of us now in this pandemic have had to do more WhatsApp calls, right? So if somebody gives you, for example, if you have data, you'd rather make a WhatsApp call than you make an actual call. Some of us are still old school, but I'm learning. You're right. I mean, it's funny that every time I'm abroad, I make WhatsApp calls because I can't freaking pay for those airtime, isn't it? Right? So I make WhatsApp calls. When I'm here, I'm trying to form like I have credit. But the thing is, so when you watch, what happens is this, right? By the time Nigeria hits its peak, the income of telecoms company will become predictable. And so they will have to diversify into something else. So if you look at telecoms companies in the US, like T-Mobile and all that, they're buying up media companies, right? Because they want to have access to it, because they can provide internet service. They want to have access to the media, you know, too, so that they can, you know, they can expand their business interests. And Nine Mobile has already started loaning out money. It's called Quick Cash. MTN has Momo Money. I mean, just think about every single one of them. So you have to ask yourself, the business that I'm in, is the market expanding or is it shrinking? Very, very important question, right? Second question you need to ask yourself is that the idea that I have, or the business that I have, can it be built into a unique product? And here, I always like to say that, look, it's not just about the uniqueness of the product. It could also be about the uniqueness of how you deliver the product, right? So it's not just about, oh, my product is unique, but it could be a uniqueness in how you deliver the product. And a perfect example of that is, is to think about USSD banking in Nigeria. Now, most of us, if this were to be a class and I asked the question, who invented USSD banking in Nigeria? A good chunk of us would say GT Bank. But GT Bank was not the first, we're not even the second, and not even the third to set up USSD banking. The first organization to do USSD banking in Nigeria was First Bank. But it didn't work out that well, because when First Bank set up their USSD banking, they were trying to enter the space of people like Paga and all of those guys. So in their mind, USSD banking, because again, it was banking without the internet, was targeted towards the low-level people, right? So it was going to be market women and all of that stuff. But the problem with targeting towards market women is that those ones barely keep their money in the bank. And then two, you're sending the same marketers that you've given 100 million naira targets to also educate and get USSD accounts. Now, I know this for a fact because at that time I was actually training First Bank. And they told me, they said, like, there's a challenge because, you know, the market woman, what's the value of a market woman in their, they call it CASA, current and savings account. The value may be 10, 20,000 there. Why would they focus all their energy on that, where they can focus all their energy on getting people who actually have money so that they can put in their accounts? Really that simple, right? So The next guys who set it up also was Stanbic. Now, Stanbic, at that time, majority of Stanbic's clients were working class people, people who would sit down in front of a laptop that's connected to the internet at work all day. And you're telling them that they can also do USSD banking when they could just have done all the transactions on their phone. So when GT Bank came out, they asked themselves, how do we build this into a unique, how do we start late and then make it look like we started first, right? So they decided to target the young person, the youths, because they realized that if the youths get it, if young people get it, they would educate their parents, they would educate the people on below them. So the easiest way was to bring in pop culture. And then many of us here remember the song. It was on radio. It felt like an actual track from like Don Jazzy or any of those guys. And it sang and sang and sang until it stuck in our brains. And 737 became the thing. And eventually GT Bank became the thing. And if you notice, at some point, if you talk to somebody and the person assumes that you have a GT Bank account until you say you don't, and the person is like, how? Why don't you have a GT Bank account, right? So when people think about a unique product, what they try to do is to rack their brains to find something out of the blue. And what I say is that you don't have to do that. You could just find a unique way to bring an already old product into market. For example, I'm using an iPad, I'm using an iPhone, But the funny thing is that the iPad and the iPhone, Apple has never been the first in any market that they've played in. Never been the first. They were not the first to come out with a phone. They were not the first to come out with a PC. They were not the first to come out with a tablet. All these things existed, but they came out with those things uniquely in a different way. And those people, and when the types of people that they want catches it on, it now looks like they're the first. But Apple were not the first to come up with a tablet. Tablets already existed before Apple. Phones already existed before Apple. In fact, the only unique thing that Apple did, right? Let me shock you. Some of us might not know this, right? How many of us remember that there was a big issue between Apple? I think this is iPhone 5, and then this is iPhone X, right? Now, how many of us remember that there was a big issue between Apple and Samsung back in the day, right? And people say, oh, what was the real uniqueness? Let me tell you the uniqueness that Apple brought into the phone, the thing that never existed before that it did. It'll be shocking to you, but the psychology of it is fantastic. Apple is the first phone in the world to have curved edges. That's the only thing that Steve Jobs did. In fact, when Steve Jobs was carrying around this device, before he would show you the device, you had to have a meeting with his lawyers, you had to sign NDAs, non-disclosure, like pilot. It looks as if, in fact, there was a guy, when I watched the documentary, the guy who was like, all these things that I'm signing, what the hell are you going to show me? Are you going to show me the end of the world? And eventually picks out the phone. And the only thing unique about that device was that it had curved edges. And what was Steve Jobs' philosophy of the curved edges? Was that when phones have curved edges, it will make the phone, in quote, sexy, and it will enable people to have a relationship with their phones. And you know the funny thing? He was right. Because how many of us right now, communicate more with our phones than we would ever communicate with our spouses? How many of us romance our phones all the time? All the time. No, just think about it. How many of us have ever had a situation where there is no notification, there is no text message, you just pick up your phone, you unlock it, and you drop it back? It's called phone romance. Right? So he was right. But there was nothing unique about it. Right? But he brought it to the market in a unique way. Very, very important. Right? 3 is the idea in its time, right? There is a time for an idea. And I'm not going to dwell more on this. I'm going to delve deep into this when we come for the strategy factory. However, you see, the thing about an idea is that if it's not in its time, there's nothing wrong with starting a business before its time. But if you're going to start a business before it's time, it's the business's time, you need to ask yourself, do I have enough money? Do I have enough cash to edge? Because when you start a business before it's time, then you're saddled with the responsibility of educating the market. Now, if you're going to educate the market, then you need to ask, how can I run my business, educate the market, and still be here when the market is educated? Because the fact is that it's a very tough thing to do. We all talk about Facebook, Instagram, Twitter today, but what most of us don't remember is that there was High Five, there was MySpace. And those guys came in and educated us about social networking, but they died just before we got the message. So if you're going to I always give two advices. One is, if you're going to start an idea and it's way before its time, and you don't have a lot of money, you need to either do one of these three things. Number one, you need to ask yourself, do I have enough money to educate the market and be here when the market is educated? So that means I have to run my company as lean as possible and then keep my business running, still be here when the market is educated. But I must also find a way to be well connected within the market so that the entire market knows that I'm the one that started this thing, and I must be ready to sell to a big player when they come. Because if I'm not ready to sell to a big player when they come, when the market is educated, somebody might come in with a lot of money and kick me out of the market. That's one. Two is that if the idea is so novel that it would require a lot of education that I cannot foot the bill of, you know what I would do? I would keep it in a shelf. I would go into a different business and build that business until and keep an eye on the market. Now, one of the people who did that very, very well was Michael Adenuga. Now, Michael Adenuga was always going to go into Glo, into telecoms. In fact, he had bought the license for telecoms long before he even started Glo. But he realized that, look, it's going to take a lot of education. So he kept that on, and then he was doing all these other businesses, and then he kept his eye on the market until he could find an angle to come in. And his angle to come in was he brought in an innovation that MTN at the time was telling us that it would take 13 years to get. And Glo brought in per second billing, and they changed the game for themselves, right? Very, very important. So you need to really, really be, not all ideas, especially when it's not its time, it's not all ideas that you can release at this time, especially if it will cost you too much. And number four is that, does it give you leverage? Whatever business you're in, it must have the ability to grow and expand such that it would not always require you. So it's like if you were a specialist doctor, for example, and you're the only one with that skill in the world. If you get more patients and more patients and more patients, you either lose money or you die, because you can't treat everybody or and be alive if you're the only one that has the skill. But if you're the only one that has the skill, can you create an organization and democratize that skill so that more people can get it? But if it's a skill that only you can have, then it's a practice, not a business. That's the reason why doctors are, what doctors do is called a practice, not a business, right? Because if it's a practice, you have to keep practicing and become a master of that practice. If it's a business, you can leverage on it, so you have to build leverage. Leverage is the beauty of how businesses work, right? So you have to figure it out, right? So those are the 4 yardsticks. However, there is something that I found that would help anybody. In fact, this current yardstick helped me, I'll be honest. It helped me to be able to figure out. So remember I said that I was in worry when the first sort of social distancing, partial lockdown that Lagos did. They reduced the amount of people that can attend an event to 20 and then to 10, and I wasn't worried. I mean, there was no problem. I was going to speak to a crowd of 400 people that day. I was done speaking to the 400 people, and I went back to my hotel room. It was a Wednesday. I was going to come back Friday morning. My flight was for Friday morning. Right? So I started to think about it. I was like, okay. So the first question that I asked myself was simple. So the first thing that I thought about was, this thing is only going to last 5, maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I mean, We didn't think much of it, just like Donald Trump. I didn't think much of it, right? I didn't think much of it. I thought that it would blow away after a couple of weeks. But I then sat down and I asked myself a question. I said, what if this continues for 10 months? What if it continues for 10 months? Now, immediately I said, what if it continues for 10 months? My first response, like a typical Nigerian Christian, was, God forbid, I bind this thought in Jesus' name. These kind of things that we say to ourselves that helps us to live like ostriches. I remember saying ostriches. Ostriches are massive birds, but they're also stupid birds because in their minds, right, when an ostrich wants to hide, the ostrich digs his head into the ground. And when his head is inside the ground, he believes that because he cannot see you, you cannot see him. So he puts his head there and believes that as my head is inside this place like this, nothing can touch me. Whereas his head is in the ground and he's not even seeing that the lion is coming. A lion has seen lunch and he will finish him, right? So I started to look at it and then I started to notice a trend. And I realized that anybody who plays in either one of these things was going to do well. Right now, everybody's mind is simple. Anything that will keep people healthy, right? Now, that includes foods, that includes essential service stuff, that includes PPE and all of that. All of those people are going to make money in this period. So are you playing in that industry? If you're not, do you have your money in that industry? So for example, I have my money up here. Over the last couple of months, we've put some money in some agri-business, and I specifically chose rice because everybody was into rice, right? Particularly because I've had somebody who for a while has been playing in that industry. So we just basically raised money, put the money in there. And every single month we're getting money. On the 7th of this month, significant amount of money. I can't tell you how much money I've made for myself and the people that invest with me. It's completely crazy, right? Massively crazy. I'm serious. You can't even begin to imagine the numbers, and because I cannot play there, I have to put some money in, right? Now, two is anything that helps people make money, because guess what is going to happen in the pandemic if it continues? Is that even if people do not work, there would always be a need to spend money, right? People would have to buy food. How many of us have noticed that since the pandemic, we've actually been spending more money at home, right? I've noticed that. I used to have a bad habit back in the day. Look, as I'm talking back in the day, like this was in January, like my previous post, pre-COVID life, I had a bad habit of not taking breakfast, because I wouldn't take breakfast because I felt like, and I think I've known it was wrong, but I just felt like it slows me down. So I won't take breakfast, maybe I'll take lunch. So the only food that was sure in my house was dinner. Everybody else, my wife, my son, they would arrange breakfast and lunch, but I wasn't really particular about that. But since COVID-19, I'm in the house. You eat breakfast, you eat lunch, you eat dinner. So someone like me that my system was adjusted to 001 is now 1111, like 5 ones in a day. And it's costing money. So anything that would help people make money would make a lot of money. Anything that would keep people connected will make a lot of money. So that's why you see Facebook, valuation of Facebook went up by billions, valuation of Zoom went up by billions. Even you should notice. So you should notice how businesses respond, because if you look at it, even Facebook and Google have started to create their own version of Zoom. I don't know if you know. They've created their own version of Zoom, right? So they've created their own version. Google has Google Rooms now. Facebook has Facebook Rooms now. Google has Google Meets, whatever it is, right? And then lastly, whatever would keep people sane, So all the people in the comedy industry, if they can figure out how to get people to pay for an online comedy session, they'll make money. All the people in in the US, there's a lot of cases. Divorce lawyers are making a lot of money now because people are realizing that they're spending undue amount of time with people that they don't even like, so they are divorcing. There's a lot of stuff, right? So you need to think about your business and say, in this season, is my business in the category of one that is helping people stay healthy? Is it in food? Is it in anything associated with that? Number two, is my business a business that's helping people make money? Number three, is my business a business that's helping people stay connected? So if you're a relationship counselor or you are anything, with respect to that, you're going to make a lot of money now. If you're in the knowledge business, you're going to make a lot of money now. If you can teach people how to live better, work better with people, now people will begin to realize that they need all that service, right? And then anything that keeps people sane is going to make a lot of money. Anything that is outside all of these things. So the first four things that we talked about are really global measures to be able to see. But when you look at all of those things and you're sure, you also have to look at these four things. These are the four things that are typically, so if my business is enabling, or can I switch the narrative of my business so that it actually enables either one of these four things, right? If I can switch the narrative of my business to try and enable either one of these four things, then you'll do very well in this program. And this is essentially one of the things that we did, right? So one of the things that we did was I personally had to expand so I had this one-on-one coaching program in different industries. And so I looked at one of them in a particular industry and said, look, yeah, I have people that would pay this amount of money, but I might need to expand this offering and create bite-sized of it and then create an opportunity for a lot of people to get into that program. And we have two different programs, one for employee to entrepreneur that is doing fairly okay, and we have one for network marketing community that is doing amazingly well, and we also have one for business owners that is also doing well as well, right? And we've created products in these three different categories, and they're all doing very well. Why? Because we asked ourselves, which of these four things can we readily, and so we realized that we have products that can enable people make more money. And when you have products that can enable people make more money, you can show it to them, right? So that's the key to this, right? Okay, but remember, all of these things we've just been explaining the first one, which is create and deliver something of value. And then the next is how needed is your offering. Remember, the second point is business is a repeated process that creates and delivers something of value. Number two is that other people want or need. So the question is, how needed is the product that you bring? But before I get into that, I want to take a few questions here. So let's just take 5 minutes and take a few questions, right? Thanks, Vivian, for writing all of these things, taking notes. Okay, good. So anybody, if you have a question, you want to type it out, or if you can raise your hand, right? I think there's a hand emoji somewhere, and you could just press it and raise your hand. If you raise your hand, I could unmute you so that you could ask your questions, right? Anybody with a question? Anybody with a question? And you can type it out. Okay, Kudi is raising her hands. Let me look for her. Okay. So you can unmute yourself now. I just unmuted you. Okay, hello. So you can ask a question. Yeah. I think you muted yourself again. Can you ask a question now?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. We can all hear you.
Okay, so I can think about products that help keep people healthy. Like during the pandemic, we have the sanitizers, the hand wash, and the products that help people make money, like the coaching programs you talked about, and things that can keep people connected, like phones and data bundles, those kind of things. But I can't, what kind of product would keep people sane? Like something to occupy their time, is that what you mean?
So first things first, products that can keep people sane. Number one, comedy.
Oh, comedy.
Number two,
okay.
counseling.
Ah, okay.
right?
Yes.
Counseling. So anybody who does, so for example, one of the things that we're beginning to realize now is that there's a lot of people who were barely tolerating their partners, right? And it was fine because there was a system as to how things worked, right? They would go out in the morning, they would come back in the evening, and then they would be and they'll come back late enough to be tired and not be at each other's throats. But now these people, it's a real thing. In fact, in New York, and I have somebody who's in marriage counseling who's beginning to note that in this particular period, there's been more filing for divorce in this period than ever. Right? So imagine if you knew how to actually help people stay married in this period, right? Like help people become better, help people to learn how to be better, how to relate better with their spouses, how to relate better with their children. A lot of us are having a hard time staying sane, working while our children are. So I'll give you a couple of businesses that I've figured out how to. So there's an app called Audible. Now, Audible is an app where you can buy audiobooks.
Books? Yeah, audiobooks.
Yeah, audiobooks, audible.com. So one of the things Audible realized is that to be able to engage more people in this period, they had to create Audible for kids. And then they made it available for free. They made it available for free for a limited period of time. But remember, if you're going to take Audible for kids, one of the things that you will do is that they would eliminate barrier of purchase because you have to put in your credit card details. And they'll tell you that, oh, you have 6 months free or 5 months free, but your credit card details is there. You're enjoying Audible. And you know what will happen is that in 6 months, you get an alert on your phone. They started making money.
Yeah.
And have you tried to unsubscribe from those kind of things? It's so difficult. Because you tell them unsubscribe, they'll send you an email. Are you sure you want to unsubscribe? Then you say yes. They'll say, are you really sure? Then you say yes. They'll say, are you sure you don't want us to give you something for free? All that kind of stuff. So it's a way of trying to get parents and so you need to think about, and there are different types of businesses that can fit into this space. You have to think about your own business and ask, how does my business fit in? Or how can I retell my business story so that I can fit into this space? You get that now, right?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm going to take 2 more questions. Thank you so much. I'm going to take 2 more questions. Galaxy A70, I'll unmute you now. Okay, I'm not seeing an opportunity to unmute you. So unfortunately, let me go to Egwe. I didn't see that button, I'm sorry. Okay, so I just unmuted you. Can you unmute yourself so that I can ask your question? Anybody else? Can you unmute yourself so you can ask your question? I've unmuted you. Unmute yourself so that you'll be able to ask your question. Okay, so you should be able to do that now. Hello? Do you want to ask a question now? You're not saying anything, so I guess we would have to. Okay, so let me just move on and then move to the other part, and then we'll take more questions at the end, right? So next is, how needed is your offering? And here I'm not talking about whether people actually need or not. I'm talking about whether your business is a utility or luxury. And I'm also not talking about whether luxury in terms of whether it's expensive or cheap. I'm talking about your ability to convert your offering to something that people cannot do without. right? Now, a typical example of that is the iPhone, right? So if you look at the iPhone, it's a fantastic device. I mean, I haven't had any need to use any other type of device since 2010. I've been using an iPad since 2010. It's funny, you know. A couple of days ago, 2 days ago, I tried to open my email on a computer system and I couldn't. It's strange, right? It's strange. Because I've never had a need to use a laptop for almost an entire decade because the device is fantastic. However, what you find is that they have been able to figure out a way to create a culture around their products that it feels like people must have. So, and a typical example, and I say this a lot in the strategy factory, is that if you've ever met, how many of us here have ever met somebody who uses an Apple device, right? If you ever meet somebody that uses an Apple device, you will get a sense in which they feel like they have made it in life. You know, that their Apple device is like a symbol that they have made it in life. Right? You know, so they flaunt the Apple device a lot. They walk around with it. You know, if two people are complete strangers and they use an identical iPhone, they tend to form some form of pseudo-strong, annoying type of bond. Why? Because Apple has created some form of a cult around their following, right? So they've made it look like, look, if you use our device, you belong to a particular class of people. So the question you need to start to ask is this. Now, the way my business is structured, is it structured in such a way that people feel like they must attend my training, for example, or they must use my product, for example, or they must work with me, for example, right? So every time we develop products in my business, we have to put an element of, look, that makes it impossible for people to not want to work with us, right? We want to create a situation where we become the industry standard for whatever it is that we're doing. So if somebody were to attend any training that we do in whichever way, the person is going to leave and say things like, I mean, I have attended a couple of trainings like this before, but this one is different, right? So you need to be able to shift your product or service in the minds of your consumers from something that is luxury oriented, which is something that they use sparingly, to something that is utility oriented, which is something that they use, something that they cannot do without, or something that they consistently use, right? Now, the next one is at a price that the customers are willing to pay. So the question now is, how willing are your customers, to pay for your service? And this is not so much about whether you can sell or not. It's so much about whether you are talking to the right market or not. So for example, in the strategy factory, we do something called pest analysis, demographic analysis, market analysis, where we look at all of your businesses or the businesses that you run, and we're going to take each of them one after the other and ask, am I serving the right market? You see, there is nothing as terrible as delivering a fantastic sales pitch to somebody who is not your customer. It's nothing as terrible as that, right? So I'll give you a perfect example. Now, I mean, I'd like to think that I'm not doing very badly. I think that I have achieved some level of comfort, some level of success. Again, okay, somebody says she can't see the screen. How many of us can see the screen? Let's just make sure that it's not a global or it's not a general problem. If you can see the screen, I want you to type, I can see the screen, just so that I know that, okay, I can see the screen, Michael says so. I'd like to take like 2 or 3 more and then we can move on. Okay, and if you can see the screen and you can hear me, I'd like you to type, I can hear you. Somebody says they can't hear me. So I just want to be sure that that's not the case. I want to be sure that it's not my, okay, I can hear you, okay, good. So I want to be sure that it's not my internet. And if you cannot hear me, can you just check or switch your internet provider and you'll be fine. So now there's a concept called the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? And Maslow's hierarchy of need suggests to us that human beings exist in different states of life, right? Now, there's another way that you can put it. Josh Kaufman talked about it as existing, living, and then thriving, right? But I like Maslow's hierarchy of needs better because it sort of breaks it down into the nitty-gritties, right? So the first of them is what you call physiological needs. So these are the base needs. The base needs, or let's say some people now put a smaller one underneath it and write Wi-Fi, because Wi-Fi is now a basic human need, right? But the thing is, if you think about the people at this level, for example, right? The people at this level, they're interested in what to eat, what to drink, where to sleep, and also the basic human emotion, the basic human activity, sex, which is the reason why you notice poor people always have a lot of children. Because when you don't have a lot of money, there are very few things that excite you other than, getting it down, right? If you're married, and even if you're not, right? But somebody who cannot find money to buy food, he's not going to be concerned about buying a designer shirt, right? It's not going to be possible, because when the human being must meet a level of need before they are introduced to a higher level of need. So when people can meet their physiological needs, then they are introduced to safety and security, which is at this point, they want to now be secure, they want to now be safe, right? They want to be safe. When somebody is not when somebody has not met his basic needs, he's not going to want for security. He doesn't care about it, right? He's going to get out there and just do whatever it is that he will do just so that he can make ends meet. Now, when people have reached that level where they now want to preserve their life because there's something to live for, then they move up into the state of love and belonging. Love and belonging is what drives people into connectiveness, right? Connectedness. In fact, love and belonging, wanting to belong, wanting to be loved, is what drives people into the social media world, right? So this is essentially where social media plays. But some of us here know that there are some people that are not on social media because they can't afford to eat. Right? You go to villages and all of that. Those guys don't freaking know what Facebook is. In the whole of Nigeria, there's only a handful of us that are online. That's why when somebody wanted to win an election and it was calculating that, all the youths that are online would, and because it was trending on Twitter, you think it will win. The population of all the people on Twitter are now up to 6 million. I'm talking about Nigerians on Twitter, they're up to 6 million. And an election is determined by 47 million votes, right? And if you can get 28 million of those votes, you'll be president. It's really that simple, right? That's how an election is determined in the country. So love and belongingness is the next. And then you now have self-esteem. And then you have something called self-actualization. Now, your business, whatever business you are in, you can target any single one of these markets. Right? You can target any single one of this market. You can take a business. Let's take a simple business, right? Let's say a restaurant business, right? You can target these people at the lower end here. You'll make money. There's a lot of them, and you'll make money. You can target these people here. You can target these people here. These people here might be, let's say, Chicken Republic, right? Love and belongingness. Chicken Republic refuel combo, right? And if you come up a little bit, then you get into Rhapsodies, Golden Gates, maybe Sheraton. These are all the people here. But when you get to this point, you're talking about dinner, you know, I mean, we probably don't even have this kind of restaurants here, or maybe a few of them, right? You're talking about maybe, I mean, I had the opportunity to have dinner once it was in Dubai. It was in the tallest hotel in the world. JW Marquis, amazing hotel, tallest hotel in the world, you know, and I had a meeting in Dubai at the time, and I was going to be hosted. So I also, aside from the meeting I had for a client, I came to do a training, but I also had a meeting with my mentor. My mentor also was in Dubai at the time, so I had a meeting with my mentor. So she was treating myself and my wife to dinner in that hotel. So we went there, and I mean, to be honest, I mean, I didn't really think much of the place, but it was an amazing place. I mean, it was a world buffet. The buffet was like as large as, it's a floor in the hotel, but it was as large as maybe even a food buffet. Like different parts of the place, you could find different food from different continents. You know, I mean, it was just go and pick, you know, and I was forming way, you know. It was until after, you know, we finished the buffet and I saw the bill, I felt like, of course, I didn't pay the bill. It was paid for by my mentor, for myself, for my wife. And when I saw the bill, I said, I should have eaten. Because right there, my food was what? 90,000 naira. 90,000. Right? So that's the kind of dinner that you have, you know, where, or I mean, that's probably still even in this place here, right? There's some places where there's a place in Germany where it's that's where you taste the oldest wine in the world. The place is usually always pre-booked almost 5 years ahead, right? And the thing, there is very small shot like this, about $5,000. So you pre-book the time, and you'd come maybe in 5 years' time. When you come there, then the winery will give you a hotel room to sleep in the night, and then there's like an entire buffet and all that, and everything is leading up to this small piece of wine for 5,000 euros. Sorry, right? That's the kind of food that you eat when you have made it in life. You don't take that kind of thing when you have not made it in life, when you are still struggling to make it. No. You do that when you have made it in life. You know, I remember I had this opportunity to speak somewhere, and I was speaking alongside the MD of an oil and gas, one of the biggest oil and gas companies. You know, and the guy sort of liked the way I spoke, and you know, we connected. So he lived in Lagos, and it was usually in Port Harcourt most of the time. So he invited me to lunch at his house, you know. So I got this house, beautiful place, right? And the wife is a gourmet chef, like not like she can cook. I'm talking about a gourmet chef, like go school, learn the matter, eh? And she had this entire table full of food, you know, beautiful food, no, you know, and also healthy, no Maggi, no artificial spice. I mean, the whole thing just did on point, right? So this is me, young guy. You know, I've made some money and my life is also all right, but, you know, I've not reached that level. So I'm sitting down there, and as we're discussing a couple of, as we're about to eat, the man's neighbor, the guy in the next house, shows up, and they just come in, and the guy is a foodie. The neighbor guy is a foodie guy, right? Like food is his life, you know. So he comes in there, and then we're talking, and the guy starts to, I don't know whether he sized me up or, I mean, for whatever the case, it felt like it was sizing me up, right? So we would talked about his love for food and how that his neighbor's wife can cook so well, and then started to talk about his different food experience in different parts of the world. So he was talking about, I mean, have you eaten lunch in so and so place in France? It was at the train station close to the airport. Unfortunately for me, a couple of weeks before, I just got back from France, and I'd been to that restaurant. But I'd not eaten there. So I said, oh, no, I've seen the restaurant. Oh, so you say something like, if you eat in that place, oh, Jesus. It will look, I mean, you know that Jesus is Lord. And I'm like, oh, God, just leave me now. I don't need to chop all this complex matter. You know, so you talk about one other place, you talk about this, and every single place he talks about, different parts of the world, I tended to have either been there or eaten there or done something there. But he brought up one that was going to kill me. He said, man, that the best thing he has ever eaten is blue tuna. I'm like, What's blue tuna? He said, you don't heard of blue tuna? I said, no, I haven't heard of blue tuna. He said, that I should Google it. I opened it. He said, see, this is fun. This is true. You should Google it. Blue tuna is a fish. The fish itself is $3.2 million. Fish is not eternal life. It's fish that they caught inside the river. $3.2 freaking million. And he said that it's in Japan. So they prepare it in, what do you call that place that it's in Japan? One Osaka or something. So they prepare everything and very small, very tiny thing like this, $500. Right? So the entire ceremony just leading up to you eating that very tiny fish. All right? So the thing is, if I'm going to be selling food to that kind of man, right? Am I going to sell food at this level, or at this level? At the highest level, because that guy has eaten from everywhere in the world. And he's interested in paying top dollar if I can give him an exclusive experience, right? So you have to be able to determine where your clients are. And in the class, we do a comprehensive analysis to be able to tell who the different clients that you serve, where are they in the world, what level are they, what they earn, what is their level of disposable income, and what can they afford to buy. And sometimes you might realize that you're serving some people at this level or this level, but you want to upgrade to serving people at this level and this level. What should you do to be able to shift, right? We would also deal with that, right? Now, remember, number 4 is in a way that satisfies the needs and expectations of the customer. So the question now is, how satisfied do you leave your client, right? Now, I always tell people that if you're going to ever be successful in business, you must always give your client the impression that they underpaid you for every single thing. Never, ever, ever be comfortable in a transactional relationship with your client. What is a transactional relationship? In my opinion, a transactional relationship is a relationship in which they paid you for this pencil and you delivered this pencil. That's a transactional relationship. And it's a very terrible place for an entrepreneur to be. Why? Because if it's a transactional relationship, right, you give your client the opportunity to consistently evaluate why they are paying you the amount of money they're paying you, right? But always go beyond a transactional relationship. So if anybody were to give me an opportunity to serve them, to be able to give them, say, this pencil, right? I will deliver this pencil and this journal to them. That's my resolve, right? I would never give anybody an opportunity. And I have had several opportunities where I could not figure out a way to deliver this pencil and this. Do you know what I do? It's funny, but I have done this. I have walked away from I have given over a 4.8 million naira discount before. I'm serious, right? If I cannot figure out a way that I can deliver this plus more, I would talk to the client and say, you know what? I don't want to have a transactional relationship with you. So can you take off X amount of money? Now, it sounds like a stupid thing to do, but let me tell you what happened. So I had this client that was one of my biggest clients, still one of my biggest clients, right? So I do coaching services for them, their business. I've been with them since when their business was doing about 200-300 million, up until now, they're doing about 23 billion, right? So I had this a couple of years ago. This, I think, was 4 years ago, right? It's about 4 years ago. So I had this a situation where I was doing something for them, and it was every month, and the pay was a certain amount of money. And I realized that I was doing it, and I was delivering because I was delivering exactly on what they wanted me to deliver. I was probably delivering more than that, but I didn't feel like I was giving them 150%, you know? So what I did was that and I'd done a lot of things for the client, lots of things. I'd made a lot of money. from working from that client, and I made a lot of money as a result of working for that client, other people that have called. So I went for the meeting one day and I told the client, I said, you know what, this particular project that we have working on, going forward, I would not charge you a cover for it. Now, the value of that project over the period of time that I said I would not charge was over 4.8 million naira. And the person, the client was like, why? I say, well, because I don't always like to have a transactional relationship with a client. I want to make sure that every time you think about me, I'm not a cost factor, right? I am a value factor for you, And the person says, wow, that she's never met anybody like this. And guess what happened after that? I got more projects, massively more projects. About 4 years ago, right? More projects with a caveat. And she said, look, Ezekiel, we're going to set up a business together at some point. And I will fund it to 200 million naira when the time comes. So if I have a business idea, I could go there, I could sit down there, and if it makes business sense, I could get almost 100 million naira in funding. Right? Because I chose not to have a transactional relationship. Right? So never have a transactional relationship with your client. Always have more, and this doesn't matter whether you're in product or service. If you're in product, for example, and you're going to make a profit from selling the product to me, then give me something, delivery for free, or do something extra. Do you understand? Something you must always find a way to deliver more value than people think they're being paid for, right? Because as long as you have a transactional relationship with a client, chances are that you would not be able to sustain that client. Because as long as it's a transactional relationship, somebody at some point would offer more value. Somebody would offer value faster, cheaper, better, whatever. And then they will walk away from you. But if it's clear to them that you're offering a much more higher value and sometimes it's also in perceived value, right? I've had a client that, the school that my son goes, I've been doing trainings for them for more than 8 years, 9 years before I even got married, before I had my son, and giving them so much value, and a number of things for free, that the owner of the school says, you know what, when you have your child, we're going to give him the rates that we give to teachers here, almost 70% off tuition. So I pay 70% off tuition. So and it's a fantastic school. It's a GRA. It's an amazing school. I won't mention the name of the school. But when my wife was thinking about different, I said, you can think of different schools, but I like the one that I'm getting 70% off. Right? So, and that came as a result of not, always doing better. So, and I call it customer astonishment. It's a step higher than customer service, right? And then as we end, we're going to talk about how profitable is your business, right? How is your business making money? Every business has to make money, yeah. And remember, the purpose of profits is not just to show off. And showing off is part of it, but the purpose of profit, according to our definition, is that they make enough profits to make it worthwhile for the owners to continue operation. Because once you're not making profit from a business, you question why it's necessary to continue the operation, right? So we're going to talk a little bit, and I'm going to take you through an activity that I always take everybody through most of the time, whether they're business owners, entrepreneurs, or the likes. So wealth is measured in time, not numbers, right? And so to be profitable, you must understand personal and business cost analysis, right? So I want to do something that would help you understand. How many of us here, remember we sent a message out that you should have a notepad. How many of us here have a notepad? If you have a notepad, either an actual notepad that you can write in, or you have a, what do you call it? Or you have a device that you can, write in. I want you to just say, I have. Let me just see. How many of us here have? I want you to just write, I have. Okay, okay, okay. Some of us have already done this activity before. It's good. But most of us haven't. Most of us here on this class haven't. So I want to see how many of us here would say that you have. Okay, good, good, good. So we all have. Okay, so I'm going to take you through an activity now, right? Now, I'm a big believer in your business paying you a salary, right? I'm a big believer in your business paying you a salary, right? Okay, yeah, very important. If you hadn't registered, but I sent you the link personally, please send your number, your phone number, your WhatsApp number to Vivian. So Vivian is sending a chat. Just type in your WhatsApp number just so that she has them, because we want to be able to send you. What they call that now? The link to rewatch this class. Again, we want to send you a couple of more things, a lot more free stuff. So please. So I'm a big believer in your business paying you a salary. But what I don't subscribe to is when people say things like, "Oh, just pay yourself any small money," and I think that's not true and not good, because it allows a lot of us to steal from our businesses. So we're going to run through a test, and you're not going to do this you're not going to even do this for your business. When you come into the strategy factory and we talk about pricing and we would do this analysis for your business so that we can understand, because a lot of us don't understand how we should price. So we'll do the analysis for your business, and then you learn how to price, right? So that you know when or how to put prices on the things that you offer. And it doesn't matter what business you're in. But I want to do a personal finance audit. I call it financial magic number that you can do for yourself right now and be able to tell exactly how much money you're taking out of your business if your business is your primary source of income. And then we can now talk about how do you work your business such that your business produces that kind of money. So how many of us are ready? If you're ready, type I'm ready. If you're ready, type I'm ready or anything. I want to see your participation. See, this part of this class, most of us will not finish it. And people will not finish it because towards the end of the analysis, they'll be having things like blood pressure, high blood pressure, all those kind of things. But if you do finish this thing, it'll change your life forever. Because after this activity, I just have 2 more slides and I'll ask you 2 important questions. And once you go through those questions, your life will be completely different. You would come out with renewed vigor on how to get your business started. Okay, so let me move to the next slide. Some of us have done this. If you've done this, please do it again. And in fact, if you've done this before, do this for your business now, just so that you have an idea. So I like to help people look through and realize exactly how much they spend on themselves, so that they can really see how they have become a cost center, right? So if you have your notepad, right, I want you to write, don't write anything you're seeing there. I would explain each of them. I want you to write rent. I want you to write rent, right? Rent. That's assuming that you pay rent. Most of us here pay some form of rent, office or home. So I want you to write rent. Now, in Nigeria, we pay our rent annually, right? Now, if I mention something that you don't spend money on, just write nil on it, so that's it. Now, we pay our rent annually, but here's what I want you to do. I want you to take your rent, for example, and I want you to take the annual figure in a calculator, for example. So let's say your rent is, let's say 1 million, so not 10, 1 million, right? So let's say your rent is 1 million, for example, right? and that's the annual rent. I want you to divide that by 12. That would give you 83,300. So instead of writing the 1 million, I want you to write 83,304 naira, right? So that is essentially your rent per month. I want you to find out exactly how much you need every single month to go through your life, right? So if you have done the rent part, I want you to write done. I want to see how many people are doing this activity. Right? Done, 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 done. If you've done it, you've written it out somewhere on your notepad, on your notes, on your phone or something. Rather than you do a notepad, a lot of us are watching this from our phones. So I want you to write done, done. I want to see about 4 or 5 people write that before I'm going to audit us in these different activities, right? So that's number 1, right? Number 2 is what we call transportation, right? Transportation, right? So transportation, most of us here have cars. So if you have a car, for example, you're going to take your car and say, how much do I spend on fuel in a month? So in a week, for example, let's say I spend 20,000 naira on fuel in a week. I would then multiply that by 4. That would then be 80,000 naira on fuel. So that would be my transportation budget. So if I put my transportation budget, that would be about this amount, right? Now, if you don't have a car and you bus around, then you need to ask, how much do I spend on buses every day? So let's assume you spend 500, right? Then you multiply that by averagely 30 days that you have in the month. That would be 15,000 naira, right? So if you've done that, I want you to write done. Done, done, done. How many people have done that? I want to see all your dones, 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 dones. Okay, good. Now, under that same, so we then move to utilities. Number 3, we move to utilities. Utilities have a few factors. Number 1 in utilities is that you have some form of light bill in your house, PHCN, IKDC, whatever it's called in your area. So I want you to write, under utilities, I want you to write light bill. Light bill, write the amount that you spend on an average. Again, this is not fixed, but just give an average cost that makes sense to you, right? When you're done writing light bill, some of us live in an estate, so pay some form of estate dues or security bill. So write down what the security bill is. Some of us, most of us rather, have cable TV, right? So whether it's DSTV, Go TV, High TV, Small TV, Strong TV, Soft TV, whatever TV it is, how much do you spend on that in a month? So write that down. And something else that I didn't write here, which is fuel for a generator. Most of us here have some form of generating set in our houses and we spend fuel for it, right? So you can just estimate. Again, it's not exactly cast in stone, but you can, if you think about the last 2 or 3 months, you can write an average estimate, right? So another thing that is not under this is also gas. Some of us here have used gas or kerosene in your house. How much do you spend on that? Right? So have we written that down? So if you've done all this, light bill, estate dues, cable, fuel, gas, if you've written factor numbers and all this monthly, write done so that I know that you're done. Okay, done. Some people are done. Anybody else? Anybody else done? Okay, great. So the next of them is what I call feeding costs. right? This might not be applicable now because feeding cost for me was eating out at work, because a lot of people live and work in two different places, and then there's a place around their house where they eat. But unfortunately now, a lot of us have been working at home, so the feeding cost might not be a lot, so you might want to skip that if it doesn't apply to you. Now, if that doesn't apply to you, the next of them should apply to you, which is the groceries at home. So groceries at home is food stuff that you buy in the house. So whether it is food that you buy, can you scale up how much you spend? Think about scale it up to a month. How much do you spend in a month? Or toiletries, insecticides and all that, write that down. What else do we spend? What else do we spend money on at home? Just food stuff, supplies, essentially. So, right, it's usually a significantly large budget. So you want to write that down. Write that down and see how that goes, right? So if you're done with that, I want you to write done. If you're done with that, I want you to write done, 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 done. I want to see done everywhere if you're done. If you're done. Okay, great. So, okay, how many of us are, I hope we're all following this exercise. Usually I always find out that not everybody does, right? So next of them is the school fees, right? So school fees is a little tricky, right? If you pay school fees either for your children or for yourself, some of us are still going to school in the sense that we're doing postgraduate and all that, but some of us is for our kids. Now, if your children are not yet in the university, it means that you pay school fees 3 times a year. So that means that what you would do for me is to add all 3 terms. So let me give you an instance just so that you get it. Imagine that in first term, let's assume first term is, let's say, 150,000, right? And then second term is, let's say, 150, no, second term is usually lower, 100,000, right? So that's 250. And then let's say third term sometimes is a lot higher, is like 220,000, right? So that means the annual school fees is 470. So what I would then do is divide that by 12 so that it gives me how much school fees is due every month. That would be about 39,167 naira, right? So I would do that, assuming I have 4 children. That would be for each of the children, because no school does buy one get one free, right? Schools don't do buy one get one free. So unfortunately, you're stuck, and you have to have pay for all school, all children, all your kids, right? Okay, so imagine that if you're done with that, please say done. So just so that we can quickly move along quickly. We're supposed to end this at 9 o'clock. Done, done, done. Anybody done? If you're done with the school fees analysis, I want you to write done. Done, 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 done. Okay, some of us are done. Okay, that's good. Okay, that's good. That's good. That's good. That's good. That's good. Okay, so the next of them is our personal expense. Personal expense is how much you spend on yourself. I mean, as a lady, manicure, pedicure, all of that kind of stuff. How much does that amount to? Thank God for COVID now. There's no Ashwebi for. Or are they still selling Ashwebi so that you can now wear the Ashwebi and come and join the Zoom wedding? They're no longer doing Ashwebi. So no more Ashwebi in the mix now. So our personal expense can come down a little bit. Thank God for COVID. All of our brothers that used to go and declare in Quilocks, no more Quilocks. No more Quiloxing, no more declaring champagne or champagne, according to Faz the bad guy. So, there's Ashwebi. Which kind of Ashwebi are you doing that you are not in a, somebody just said there's Ashwebi. So you tell me now, I'll buy 100,000 Ashwebi and come and sit down in front of Zoom. No. God forbid that thing. God forbid that thing. All right? so think about that. Then next is childcare expense. How much do you spend on your children that is not school fees? So whether it is, so for example, now I'm spending a little bit more on my son now because he's having to buy some apps and now to get, my son has gotten more toys during this lockdown than he has ever in his life, because now he has formed the habit of bargaining with me. He must, if he does this thing, I must buy him a toy. If he does this small thing, I must buy him a small toy. If he does this big one, I must buy him a big toy. So I have gotten into toy propaganda. There's a supermarket close to my house. They know me. I visit the toy section very, very often these days because now my son has roped me into. So all that is going to go into my childcare expense, for him. And then after that, the next is communication, airtime and data. How much do you spend on airtime? How much do you spend on data in a month? How much do you spend on airtime? How much do you spend on data in a month? Have we written that? If you've done the airtime and data bit, I want you to write done. We're almost done with that activity. If you've done the airtime and data, I want you to write done. Airtime, data, you've written out how much you spend on data in a month, how much you spend on airtime in a month. Okay, we're done. Yeah, communication jumped 500%. Very true. Very, very true. Very, very, very true. It really did jump 500% because now, in fact, what we saved in commute time, we had to give in communication, right? So you spend more time, more money. Well, for me, it didn't go up because I have always done unlimited data plans for my house. So I essentially haven't spent any more. And I've also not spent significantly more on my phone calls too, because maybe a little bit more on phone calls, but I've also started to learn how to do WhatsApp calls, and I have unlimited data, right? Unlimited data plans, right? So I have internet in my house, stream Netflix, whatever it is. Right? It's one of the things that I did very early because my wife watches a lot of YouTube. I watch a lot of videos on YouTube. I didn't like the fact that I used to help her calculate how many MB she's using. So we just got that out of the way. So next of them after data is giving. Most of us here do some giving, either to our church, our mosque, maybe even to our parents or to our siblings. A lot of us, like I said, I've been fortunate, I've been blessed during this pandemic to be able to give to a number of people that were really struggling. So what's that for you? What's your giving budgets like? I know that a lot of us will say it's the same thing, we don't know how our giving is irregular, but if you check, even those of us that go to church, if you check very well, you have been giving the same thing for the last 6 months. It hasn't changed. So don't bother yourself, just write it down. That's the only one I'll see it. Okay, so have we done that? We're almost done. Almost done. If you've done that, say done. Just type done, done, done. If you've done that, write down. Okay, Michael. Okay, David has done that. Igweye has done that. Goma, how you doing? Done that. Edwin has done that. Camon 11 Pro has done that too. I don't know who that is. Can you let us know what your name is? Okay. Done that. Mrs. Sherifat has done that. And then lastly, I want you to I want you to write down any other expense, anything that you think that I haven't covered. So I did not write that some of us here have gate man, because gate man is not a common thing with everybody. So if you have a gate man and you're paying salaries to, or you have a cook, or you have I mean, what could you have that is a cost center? Write down all of those things. And when you're done, I want you to add everything together. Add it all together. When you're done, add it all together. Add it all together, add it all together, add it all together, add it all together. Add it all together so that you can see the figures. And if you don't have to write the figures, please don't write the figures in the chat room. Don't write it. We don't want to see it. Just have it for your own consumption. I want to wait until like 5 of us have, and once you have seen it, I want you to tell us that I want you to write, I have seen it, and then I want you to write how you feel about the fact that you spend that amount of money monthly. So I'll give us a few minutes. Let me see if I can find a very nice song to play. Let me play. I'll wait for the next 2 minutes. Somebody wrote Jesus. That's nice. I'm waiting for like 5 more people to join in, and then I'll ask you the questions that I want to ask you. Anybody else? The rest of us, your calculation must be very strong. Are you using divide the x to calculate matter? I'll be crazy not to be killing the but just before you decide, I need to tell you, is there something that I can't believe it. Might be your time. Is there something that So, okay, so I assume that we've all seen it, even if you don't want to say it. And if you haven't seen it, it means that you didn't do it. Please do it. Honestly, it'll change your life. But the big question I need to ask you is this. Does your business pay you that amount of money as salary right now? Right? I want you to write yes or no if your business pays you that amount of money as salary. Can your business pay you that amount of money as salary? See, if your business cannot pay you that amount of money as salary, what it means, if your business is the only source of income that you have, it means that you're currently robbing your business. That's what it means. But here's the deal, right? The real issue is not whether it can pay you that amount of money. Oh, beautiful. Somebody said, yes, that's amazing. If your business is paying you that amount of money, a salary, that's amazing, right? Now, but the bigger question is this, and this question is the reason why the strategy factory is important. You see, because a lot of us, if your business can pay you that amount of money as salary, it's a good thing, but that's not the goal of business. The goal of a business is, the goal of a business is to be able to build something that can feed a lot more people. So the big question I like to ask is this: how big does your business need to get? How big does your business need to get to be able to pay 20 people in your organization right now that amount of money? And that's the goal of every organization. That's my goal. I mean, whatever it is that I have recorded, and it's crazy insane, I want to be able to build a business that can pay that to at least 20 people in my organization. You know why? Because the people who, that one is hard. Yes, because that's how big, that's how global businesses are built, right? Don't forget, the people who work for you right now, they also deserve the type of life that you have. They deserve it. They deserve, so that's the truth. They deserve. If you have, let's pick a sample. Let's assume that your current expense, for example, let me move back. Let's assume that your current expense is 500,000, right? Do you think that there is anybody in your organization right now that works for you, earning 30, 40, 50, 100, or whatever? Do you think there's anybody who wouldn't want that kind of income? Now, if they want that kind of income, and you as the entrepreneur is not planning for your business to be big enough to pay them that kind of income, what do you think they'll do? They'll move somewhere else, right? They'll go somewhere else. This is one of the major reasons why small businesses never retain good employees. This is one of the reasons why people work with you until they work with you, they get good working with you, and then they find their square roots to somewhere else. Why? Because even though you provide them with much needed training to become better, your vision is not big enough to accommodate the future that they want, right? So that's about the end. If you're interested in us working with you to be able to grow a business that could actually be on the right track towards becoming that type of business, then maybe you should think about coming to Strategy Factory. So again, with COVID-19, we don't know when life returns to normal, but we know that if you really think about it, you could come out stronger. And if you're going to come out stronger, I'd like to be part of the process, right? So the Strategy Factory is usually 10 days and 10 hours. So one of the things that we figured out is to be able to actually do the Strategy Factory over here on Zoom. So for 2 days, as we take a deep dive into business strategy that will help your business thrive in this time. So these are the models. It's 2 pages of models, massive amounts of it. We'll talk about. So what we did essentially is cover just module 1. So this is where we stopped today. Sorry, let me use blue pen. So this is where we stopped today. If you were in this class, right? So we have all of this to take. Of course, when we come back for the Strategy Factory proper, I would retake this module because again, there are some people that will attend that class that haven't been to this class. So I will take this module and then we'll go into what is strategy, and we'll talk about what the definition, reducing sales and competence dependency. How do you make sure that your business is not people that are working with you don't just run out and you don't just lose sales? How do you increase ways to achieve your strategic objectives? How do you make more, spend less while maintaining or increasing quality of product or service? Module 3 is on people, processes, and controls. How do you choose the right people for your business? How do you get inexpensive, dedicated staff quickly? How do you identify the right processes to put in place? Then we'll talk about market analysis. We're talking about pest analysis, industry analysis. So we're going to be looking at different industries. We're going to be talking about market segmentation. We're going to be talking about suppliers. We're going to be talking about who your competitors are and how to work with them, how to understand their product so that you can build value innovation. We're going to talk about pricing. A number of us don't know, but we are underpricing. And it doesn't mean that your prices will become more expensive. It only means that you need to understand how to build your business properly, right? So we're going to be looking at pricing. I'm going to be teaching you how to incorporate all of the cost factors of your business into your pricing model, right? So for example, when I think about the price of a product, when most people think about the price of a product, they think about what the cost of materials are vis-a-vis what the end price is. But there are more things: salaries, staff, utilities. All of those things must be calculated inside your price, right? And we're also going to talk about dealing with HNIs. We're going to be talking about the KLT principles, which is growing your credibility with your ideal clients, building lasting relationship with your clients, learning to describe your work in a way that inspires trust. We're going to be talking about the entrepreneur's number one job, business networking. I'm going to be teaching an advanced inquiry, intelligent self-interest, and then the 24-hour rule. So when you meet people, when you ever meet people, right, there is a 24-hour rule, something that you must do in 24 hours if you're going to find a way to do business with them in the future. This 24-hour rule principle has made me tons of money. I have met somebody in, so I'll give you a perfect example of the 24-hour rule before we leave, right? So I was flying to Abuja. A couple of months ago. I think it was this year. No, not this year. It was last year. It's last year. No, this year. Strategy Factory, I think was January, right? Yeah, I think it was January or November. I can't remember, but I think it was November. Yeah, November. So it was November. So I was flying to Abuja, and usually I enjoy flying because it's the one time that you can be alone. So I usually don't like to talk. So I get into this flight, and there were a lot of people dressed in a particular uniform, like it was a themed stuff. And so one of them was sitting right beside me in the plane, at the front of the plane, right? And so I didn't want to bother 20, 30 minutes into the flight. It was a 50-minute flight. So I just started to ask, what it was about. So she talked about the different things. And then so it was an NGO, and they had a large event that they do. And then they had this event that we're going to do transport building and all that. So this lady was the deputy coordinator, the convener or the owner of the NGO and all that, was sitting in front of us, right? So I started to quiz them. My strategy mind kicked in. I started to quiz, talking about what does she really want. Then I found out that her younger brother died of cancer, so she wants to build a business. The NGO does projects worth about 300 million yearly. And I was asking them, how did they fund it? It's from giving of some high-profile people. So I'm teaching them how to put a system on how they can generate that money internally. And then I also found out that she wanted to build a cancer center. Learned a bit about her, and so that meeting, I was going to Abuja for a strategy factory meeting the next day. So I got her to invite me to, she invited me to the event that was happening in Transcorp Building that night. So I went to the event in Transcorp Building. But immediately I dropped down from the plane. Remember, the 24-hour rule says that you must find a way to connect with people 3 times within 24 hours creatively, so that they register. So immediately I got off the, I think I can even read the actual text messages that I sent her. Let me read the actual text message that I sent her, right? So immediately I got off the call. See, I'm reading it from the text message. Immediately I got off the call. This is what I sent to the lady. To the woman, right? I said, hello, man, this is Ezekiel. We met at the Ibom Air flight from Lagos this morning. It was great meeting you and listening to how you're doing so much good in the world. I've been looking forward to seeing you this evening. and also working with you to make that the auspices for the cancer patients in reality. Thanks a lot. So she responded, and then I went for the event that night, right? I couldn't stay because I was going to do 10, 12 hours of strategy the next day. So I drove down there. I couldn't really stay for long. But I noticed a couple of things. I noticed how she was organization driven and the likes. So again, this lady had also said she wanted to attend my strategy factory event that was going to happen the next week in Lagos, right? So, and she attended and paid for somebody else. So they said, God bless. And then I went for that event, and then I went back much later, and then I went home to where I was staying. And then the next day, I sent a text. Thanks a lot, Ma, for the invite yesterday. Even though I couldn't stay till the end, the quality of the event says a lot about Arise, and well, I didn't want to mention about the event. About Arise, and particularly your organizational skills. I literally saw you putting this together. Your commitment to this prayer is admirable, and I believe it points to how successful you'll be at restarting your business, like you said, and the confidence, and also my confidence in your ability to see the project through. It'll be a huge honor to help you with this project. Do have an amazing day. So I left, and then then I sent another message much later, and I got a WhatsApp number because I wanted to send her some information about the training. And then on Tuesday, I was going back to Lagos, and I was driving straight to the airport, and I turned to my right, and I see something. I see the International Cancer Center, and it wasn't really looking too great. I got an idea, and I sent a message immediately. Hello, Matt. Trust your money is going on well. On my way to the airport right now, and just spotted the International Cancer Center on Airport Road. Couldn't take pictures, but it really didn't look too good at all in terms of ambience. Now I see why your project is really important. Go make it happen. Now, the thing is, you have to find a way to connect with people. Now, this is someone that does hundreds of millions in revenue. 100 million sits on the board that does hundreds of millions. And in just 2 days, we're able to connect. And then we had several meetings. She came to my program, and the rest they say is history, right? Okay, so we're going to be teaching about that. We're going to be teaching about staying in touch creatively. So for example, the thought about the International Cancer Center up, down to her, and I'm going to be teaching you on selling. And then I'm adding one more module that is specifically to succeeding in crisis times. And those who come into that class. Now the strategy factor is usually 70,000 naira. And it's a full day strategy. And it's not just because it's in Sheraton, but it's also because we give access to the alumni. We give you access to and the alumni community. I mean, we have a vibrant alumni community, and I can say that for a fact. Business transacted within the community is over 100 million naira now. It's massive, right? However, what I want to do is to sort of have people pay 38,500, and more than just getting access to the event, I want us to create something together, right? So if you pay that amount of money anywhere you are in the country, you would get this hoodie. Of course, so when you pay, Vivian will talk to you about the specific size, and then you would also get this cap, or you might get a white or a black one, depending on which one. So you get this shipped to you wherever you are, and then you would get the manual, you get access to some ebooks, you get post-training support. We have, and we support for life. Yeah, because we have people who've attended Strategy Factory almost a year ago now. They're still there, they're getting information, we're connecting people together, they're doing business with each other. And what else are you going to get again? Then we're also going to, so we have all of the previous Strategy Factory classes that we have done that are recorded on our e-learning site. We would give you access to the entire course online. So not only would you have access to the training and access to the courses in terms of in terms of the recorded versions of each class, but we'll also give you the online class so that you can have access to other people's experience with the courses soon, right? Now, for those of us who are interested, please send a message to this number. Please note this number down. It's actually for Vivian. Vivian is here, or you can just post interested, and she would chat up with you and get your details while we're doing the Q&A. Now, it's on the 31st and 31st of July and 1st of August, right? 31st of July, 1st of August. It's 2 days, and it's going to be 10 hours. It's going to be 9 a.m. to 12 noon, then 7 to 9 p.m. Each day, 9 a.m. to 12 noon, then we'll take a long break, and then we'll do 7 to 9 p.m. Trust me, it's going to be an amazing time, you know, and it's freaking cheap. I mean, I just paid for a Tony Robbins course now for, I mean, I didn't want to mention an insane amount of money, and it's July 16 to 8 to 19. So, in fact, the person that is going to be doing this training on the 31st is not even the human being that you're seeing here. I would have entered inside Tony Robbins' first virtual meeting. Right now, as I'm speaking now, there are 14,000 of us that have registered for that class. 14,000 of us that have registered for that class. And price is about 200,000 there now. So but it's trust me, it's a good way to spend the money and learn, you know. So please, if you're interested, please send a message to this number right now or in the course of the week. Some of us might have to go and think about the ability to afford it. In fact, one of the things that you could do is, even if you don't have all the money now, go talk to Vivian. Vivian will send you the details. You can make a commitment to it right now. Just a commitment, maybe 50% or 30% or 40%. And the reason why it's important is that registration is going to end about a week to the event, not about 10 days to the event, sorry, so that it allows us to be able to get your because again, remember that particularly the hoodies have to be made to fit. So it allows us to get our vendors to do it. And also, especially if you're out of Lagos, there are a lot of us that are not in Lagos. If you're out of this country, I don't know how I can get it across to you. You know, you might have to chip in something for the delivery. If you're within the country, if you're out of Lagos, we will do that. Whatever the cost is, we will send it to you at whatever the cost is to you, wherever it is that you are, if you're out of Lagos. But if you're outside the country, I don't know about our ability to do that, right? But 10 days to the event, we'll close up registration, or anybody that registers after that will pay the full amount, but will not have access to all of this, right? So you can have access to all of this, and then you'll be able to be part of the event because we want to take pictures together. We want to build the community and, you know, disturb everybody online that we are. But more than that, this is good quality stuff. And it's a way of you identifying with our brand so that we know that you're a part of us, right? Okay, so that's about it. I'll be taking questions. Any questions now? So anybody that has questions, please raise up your hand. I would unmute you so you can ask your questions. Then when we've taken as many questions, then I will now unmute everybody so that we can all just say something, say whatever it is that we want to say as we close the event, right? Okay, also please, everybody who attended this class, we'll be sending you a feedback form to rate the class, to see how things are going, right? Okay. So anybody else? Anybody wants to ask a question? Any questions? Any question? Any question? While I'm waiting for the question, let me continue doing myself. Any question? Okay, so somebody wants to ask a question. Or anybody wants to say something, feedback about the class. Okay, so if we don't have questions, what I would, okay, somebody, oh, okay, somebody wants to ask a question. Sorry, I didn't see that. Oh, okay. Ah, the person wants to ask a question, they see somebody else. Let me unmute. I've unmuted you so you can talk now. I don't know why it's not unmuting. Okay, I think, yeah, so you can talk now.
Yeah, so good evening, everyone. My name is Josola. Thanks so much for the session. How do you sell to someone or group of people that need your
I can't really hear you now.
Family life.
Okay, so it's about family life. So like I said in the class that one of the things that is selling now is if you have a product that helps people stay sane, right? And one of the huge places where there's a lot of problems today, caused particularly by the COVID-19 pandemic, is in the family, right? There's a lot of strain happening in that place, So one of the things that we have to do quickly is that we have to position ourselves as people that can have the kind of conversations that people don't want to have. And I know you do that very well. You have branded yourself as somebody that can have uncomfortable conversations about relationships, right? So the next thing is to create a product. Create a product, do something like what I am doing, organize a Zoom class or whatever, and have people come into, give them, so create a product and then give, 20% of that product out for free so that people can have the experience, and then tell them to pay a certain amount. Essentially what I'm doing, right? But the key here is that we have to be able to provide value, massive amounts of value. So let me remove my. So massive amounts of value. We have to be able to provide massive amounts of value to the people who are going to do business with us, who are going to either get our services. And one of the beautiful ways is that you can create a simple product that is inexpensive, that is not so much of a deep dive, that people can come in and experience, and then upsell some people into like a coaching program. Some people definitely, because it's relationship driven, some people definitely would want you to do like a deep dive. Because again, like with every issue, particularly with relationship issues, what they tell you the problem is usually not what the problem is, right? Somebody says the problem is that he didn't smile at me, but the real problem could be that 12 years ago, he said that I'm fat. But the thing is, so you can sell the basic product and people come in and learn, but I think that we desperately need somebody who would sell a product like that now, because I feel like a lot of people would divorce and it's not necessary in this time. Everybody is somewhat introduced to a new type of life, where unnecessary. I've been lucky or fortunate or blessed in that, I used to say that before, I'm a very married man, so incidentally, and my wife run, so between the both of us, we have about 4 different businesses, and we actively run one or two of them together. So essentially, the office. So we have a factory, we have an office in Maryland, and that office is sort of done in such a way that there is a compartment where she works from, and it's compartment. There's an angle where she works, duplex office, an angle where she works, and where I work from. And she oversees one of the business primarily. I just assist, and then I oversee one of the businesses primarily, and she assists. So essentially, I've been a very married man. So I'm married in the house, I'm married in the work, I'm married everywhere. It's a very difficult, it was a bit challenging at the beginning, but I got used to it. So when COVID happened, it was not any different. We have always been, we always had to live the entire day together. But most people didn't have that opportunity, to do that. Sorry, somebody's trying to reach me. Let me just send me a message. By 9:45. So the thing is, so we've been fortunate to have had this COVID experience prior to COVID. So a lot of people, this is new for them, right? This is having to always be at each other's faces. So some people would make decisions at this time that is not necessary or that they shouldn't make. And you have the opportunity to help them not make those kind of stupid decisions, because, it's not going to make it any better, right? So just create a product, and until by the way, I should mention to everybody in this class that the person who just spoke, I call her Auntie Sola. She's actually, so I have mentors in different parts of my life, right? So she's actually my relationship mentor. I try to help her in her business, but she's my relationship mentor. She's the reason why my head is not stupid, as a husband, that is. So, and she's amazing at what she does. She will keep you accountable. She'll do all of that. So, in case there's somebody here who's feeling like they're going to divorce their husband or their wife, you need to call her sharp. But more important than that is that I know you, and I know that this is something that you've done for Anne, my wife, many years now. By the end of this year, we'll be married 7 years. We know you 2 years before that. So about 9 years, almost a decade. Almost a decade you've been the person that we could be very open with, and we can discuss anything with. And not just me, by the way. There's tons of us in that category. So, if you create anything, I will personally market it. Personally. And there's one thing I know very well. I know that I can sell. I know. And you know that I can sell. So don't worry, we'll sell it. Right. Anybody else has a question? I think somebody else said they have a question. Okay, anybody else has a question? Anybody else? Any other question? Any other question? Any other? Let me try and see if I can see different people. Any other question? Those of us that can open our camera, open it, let's see your face now. I know the ladies, some of them might not be seeing because of the lack of makeup and everything, right? Okay, so I'll just open up I'll unmute everybody now so everybody can say something about the class. I'd like to hear your feedback, something that you'd like to say. So I've unmuted everyone, so you can unmute yourself now. Oh, Gwenga, how are you doing? Thanks for
very fine, sir.
Good. Anybody else wants to say something? So I'm switching my cap. I'm switching from the white to the black so that you guys can know that we have plenty. Anybody else? Michael A. B. Sui, right? Seen a lot of people that I didn't know before. Olubella, it's Lola. Oh, okay, it's nice. Zainab. Hey, Amanola, how you doing? I'm spoiled. Okay, so anybody else wants to say something? You're all unmuted though, so you can say something now. Say what you want to say or forever hold your peace.
Right. Thank you
Look
so
at
much
this
for the
mic.
class, sir. The
Is that
class
what
has
they say?
been
Yes.
an awesome one. Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, I can hear you. I grow wise webinars.
Exactly. Thank you so much for the class. I've really learned a lot. And one thing that I really learned today out of the many things I've learned is the concept of shrinking market and expanding market. And I've learned that it isn't just that there are some people at one corner trying to, I mean, there are some demons at one corner trying to make sure I don't sell. And and it is the fact that I have to know if the market or the market where I'm playing is actually a shrinking one or it's one that's expanding. And I have to.
See, let me tell you the truth. Now, I might be wrong, and those of us that are very religious should correct me if I'm wrong. You see, I believe that in the business world, this business world, devil and God, their hand is not inside. I'm serious. You know, it's like saying that, you know, it's like Nigeria is playing Brazil, and they are not saying God will let Nigeria win. What should the Christians in Brazil say? So I believe that in a football match, God's hand and the devil's hand, they are not easy. They are like this, right? So it's the person that is most prepared. You know the reason why I think so? Because there are people that are Christians that are succeeding in the business world. There are people that say that they don't believe that God exists. They are also succeeding in the business world. There are people that they don't know whether they believe that God exists or not. They are also successful in the business world. And there's a common denominator amongst all of them, is that they all learn how businesses work and work it. This is just that simple. So let's not I mean, yeah, there are some cases where the devil is on your case, in the case of Job, where everything will just enter one chance. In those cases, but I mean, in the whole of the Bible, there's only one time that we saw that example happen. All the other times is brain or color that they used to succeed. Look at, for those of us that are religious, you know, we read the Bible and we don't read it comprehensively. So they say, oh, Isaac sowed in the land, and in the same year reap a harvest. And people are like, hey, it's a good. No, it's not. Uncle, when they say, if you read that scripture very well, you will say Isaac dug a well. It was an agric economy. Back in the day, people used to depend on rain to fall before their crop moved. And then there was a drought. That's why I said there was famine in the land. There was a drought in the land. And Isaac got an idea that, look, instead of waiting for rain to fall from the sky on the crops, why don't we dig a well and be fetching the water and be pouring it on the crops? They say he dug the first one, it didn't work. He dug the second one, it didn't work. He got to the fifth one, and the fifth well worked. He literally invented irrigation system. It's the irrigation system that made him to profit. Some people can say he sowed in the land in the same year, they'll be praying, I will sow. What are you sowing? Go and build a well. Right? Build something. You understand? So these things don't just fall. There's a science. So I believe that in the business world, there's actually a science that controls. There are principles, things that God and the devil have agreed since the beginning of the world that the person will make money. According to my new friend on Instagram, the billionaire man, if you get to the point now, then you can move into the upper echelon. That's what I think. Please, if you're very religious, correct me. My Bible have not reached that level. But yeah, I believe that devil and God, their hand is not inside. So somebody says it's God that is not making, devil is not making me to sell. Uncle, you're in the wrong market. They are not selling. It's not devil. It's you. You're not in the market where they are selling. Where you're not in the market where it is happening. Everybody have moved to Android phone. They are selling Nokia. He says devil. How are you going to make it? You can't make it in life. You have to move into where people are moving, right? So it's just my opinion, though. But I think I believe it, and I think it's safe for me to believe it because it just means that as far as business is concerned, I have control over how well I do or not.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody else before we round off? Anybody else? So
Yes,
nobody else.
Mike would like to say something.
Okay, Mike, please do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So thanks so much, sir. Very, very much, sir, for this session. Yeah, it's been very insightful, really. It's been very eye-opening. I hope everyone can hear me. Okay, for me, major takeaway is the concept of what a business is. Not just the concept of what a business is, but how you actually explained it and then break it down. I've read about the definition of business, the way you put it from, I've heard about it before, read about it, but there is a way you explained it that even reading that book, Personal MBA, would not simplify it that way. Really, yes, really. That's for me. For me, the concept of idea viability, okay, how you check if an idea is viable or not, because that's very foundational. It's foundational because if you run off and then get the product out and you get that wrong, you still need to go back to that and make sure you get that right before you go off again. So that's so foundational, so foundational. No matter the level you are, if you get that wrong, the solution is to go back and get that right. Either you get off the product or you come up with another product, but you have to just get that right before you move on from where you are. Thanks so very much, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I need to mention this, and we would have a class on the BI triangle in the strategy factory. And I need to mention this, that a lot of entrepreneurs are too committed to the product of their business and not the business itself, right? Any business can change its products. So, in fact, there are 8 factors that are most important in a business. And you know what the least most important thing is? The product or service that the business offers. It's changeable like this, right? Changeable like this, right? So if you look at businesses, take a look at IBM. They essentially invented a personal computer. Today, they are selling softwares, right? So businesses can change their products. There are other things that determine whether a business is going to be successful or not. And so some people marry their products too much, and then they die with the products. You know, the product is dying, and then, so for example, take a look at why did IBM move out of the PC market? Because the PC market is dying. I mean, I just told you now that in the last 10 years, I have not had a need to use a laptop. In fact, it's funny. We're supposed to be streaming this thing live on Facebook. The only reason why we're not doing that now is because we had a meeting with a consultant 2 days ago that was supposed to show us how, and it required a laptop. I just told him, I said, for this one on the 3rd, let's just leave it. For 31st, we can be figuring out what we're going to do with that. But we are not going to do that one because I don't know that. I was 2 days ago. So yesterday, I tried to open my email on the laptop and I couldn't. I didn't understand how. So, and unfortunately, even the tablet market, like the iPad, is going. Everything is going to be as small as this. And even this one itself is going to go. We're all going to have holographic projected wristbands that will become phones. And even that one is going. In another 15 years, well, I don't know if you've heard about I know some people are going to go off spiritual about it, but there are technologies right now that you can put in the glasses. In fact, there's telepathy technology. There's a PhD researcher in Johns Hopkins University that has implanted a chip in his mind, in his brain, and another one in his wife's brain. And then they could literally be in 2 different rooms and communicate via thoughts. But people are there. Now, see, the way you're laughing now is the same way close to 100 years ago, somebody explained to somebody else and said, you know what, there's going to be a phone device that if you call somebody here, the person will be hearing it in another country and they'll be able to talk. And the person will say, are you stupid? Do you know what it means? That is witchcraft, Oshorunga. That's when, listen, every thought is a frequency. Let me explain why that thing is very powerful. Have you ever had a situation, and I use this a lot. I use this to make a lot of money, right? Every time a thought comes to your mind about somebody, it is because that person is thinking about you. Have you ever been thinking about somebody and all of a sudden the person calls you? Has that ever happened to you before?
Yes, a lot.
Now, let me tell you what happens. Anytime you think about somebody, you're sending out a thought to the universe, to the ether. And every thought, your thought has as much a tangible frequency as reading 93.7. I'm telling you, your thought the frequency of your thought is as tangible as the frequency of a radio station. Right? And when you think about somebody like that, right? Or when somebody, I mean, most of my coaching clients, I use this technique to close really a lot. If I'm driving and somebody comes to mind, I would park and call that person. The person will be like, I was just thinking about you now. I knew they were just thinking about me. That's why I called them. Now, you know what? When you call them, when they're just thinking about you, they would feel some form of mysticism and spiritual connection with you, such that anything you sell to them at that time, they'll buy. Because in their mind, it's God that made you to call them. It is science. Every time you think about somebody, it goes into the ether. If I am tuned to the frequency, I catch the frequency, and I know it's because you're thinking about me, I would call you. It's the same thing when I was in university. Someone came to meet me and said they had an idea for a business, right? They wanted to start cinema in school. And I told him exactly what I said. I said, every thought has a frequency. So if you have an idea, right, it means the idea is around. It means that there is somebody, if the person is tuned to that frequency, the person will catch the same idea. So ideas, that's why ideas cannot be patented. It's product that can be patented. So it's always a race to execution. He said, no problem. I said, so if you have this idea, execute it very quickly because somebody else is thinking about it. We left. So I used to teach a couple of people on business back in school. 2 weeks later, I've not talked to anybody about this. He's not talked to anybody about it. We're talking about it. And I'm telling him the exact, I said, you have not done anything in 2 weeks. This idea, by the time I was talking, both of us come to the wall, we see a poster, Cinema 57, opening next Saturday. I said, look at your life. I said, somebody, every time an idea shows up, the idea is around. It comes in frequencies, right? There's a reason why the Bible says ideas, all good and perfect things, God gives power to get well. Because God doles out ideas, but he doles out ideas in frequencies. If you are tuned to the frequency, you catch it. It's the same. Your thought is as powerful. So that's why I believe that research that John Hopkins managed to. Very soon, I'll just be like this, no Zoom, anything. All of you now, I'll just be like this, be looking at myself, like be thinking. And in my thinking like this, all of you have logged into the training. All of you are also in your house thinking about it. And I'm teaching you like this. Everybody's collecting knowledge. You're laughing. Just be watching. We're coming. I'm serious. See, the world that we're about to get into is completely amazing. Trust me, right? And the opportunities that are available is huge going forward. So don't be afraid of the future. And for those of us who will join the class, I really would look forward to working with you and helping you figure out right? Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time. I hope this after class has been useful. For those of us
very much. Yes, very much.
Yeah,
I hope it will not be deleted from the recording.
No. It's in the recording. It's in the recorded.
Okay.
By tomorrow, hopefully, if we have your numbers, we would send you a link to the recording. We would send you a link to our feedback form, and we'll send you details on how you can register for the class. Right?
All right. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much. Thank you so much for everything. Have a
Thank
fantastic.
you, Ezekiel.
Thank you so much, Ezekiel.
Thank you, Ezekiel.
Thank you
so
Thank you
much.
so
We are
much.
grateful.
Have a fantastic day. Okay, so I'll be ending the class now. Bye bye. Unfortunately, I have another class starting 9:30 that will last till 11. My life is not finished yet. It's not work that we say we are looking for. It's work now. Okay, good night, everyone.
All right, good night, sir.